Welcome to the third annual Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Leadership Showcase presented by the College of Science and Engineering. We are excited to have the opportunity to host all of you for this college staple event.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ben Koch, and I am the CSE Associate Director of Student Engagement and DEI. Sam and I will be your MCs this afternoon, and as we recognize some outstanding students, faculty, and staff engaging and contributing to work in diversity, equity, and inclusion at the University of Minnesota, and specifically within the College of Science and Engineering. This leadership showcase will highlight DEI-focused contributions in the areas of student advocacy, volunteer work, and engagement that have a positive impact on the college, the university, and the Twin Cities communities. As we begin, I'd like to share with you our land acknowledgement and what it means to me as a staff member of the College of Science and Engineering. The University of Minnesota Twin Cities is built within and continues to occupy the traditional homelands of the Dakota people. It is important to acknowledge the peoples on whose land we live, learn, and work as we seek to improve and strengthen our relations with our tribal nations. We also acknowledge that words are not enough. We must ensure that our institution provides support, resources, and programs that increase access to all aspects of higher education for our American Indian students, staff, faculty, and community members. While it is difficult, I find it important to lean into these conversations, recognize my own limitations and oversights, and make a commitment to more action and accountability. We must not just be allies, but accomplices in this work. That will mean different things to different people, but continuing to engage in difficult conversations, challenging our normals, and ultimately finding effective ways to be a part of greater solutions is imperative for all of us with the influence and privilege that we carry as members of the university and college community. Change is not always easy, but it is important, especially as we strive to be more diverse, equitable, and inclusive as an institution. We must continue to grow and adapt to what the whole student experience looks like. We may face challenges, but we must continue to listen to Black and Indigenous students of color, under-resourced and underrepresented students, and others to support them in the ways that they need and want, especially as we join difficult conversations.
With this being the third year of the DEI Leadership Showcase, we have been reflecting on the importance of holding space for the recognition of the many incredible leaders in our community. This program is the culmination of many conversations and feedback from students, recognition of hard truths, and the desire to grow in our efforts to support our community. The showcase was founded in response to the hours of free labor that is being done right now to improve the STEM experience at our institution. Those who genuinely engage in or organize programming that supports communities that are overlooked and underserved don't do it for the applause or the recognition. They do so because they care. They understand that sometimes you are the person that starts the domino effect for change. The work is exhausting, and more often than not, it's personal. The DEI Leadership Showcase is just the beginning of acknowledging the time and effort that is gifted to our community. It's the acknowledgement that all that is being done is on top of being busy, hardworking, incredible students who have many other responsibilities. Today, we encourage you to celebrate the triumphs, find joy in the connections that you make or foster, share your accomplishments, and continue the conversation. Throughout the program, we also encourage you to grab food and help us celebrate the leaders on our campus. Before we begin the awards portion of our evening, we'd like to recognize our sponsors. Our gold industry sponsors are Emerson Electric and Medtronic. Our maroon industry sponsors are Amplifon, Andersen Corporation, CenterPoint Energy, Ecolab, GRAEF, Honeywell, and Tennant Company.
We also have wonderful departmental sponsors. Our departmental gold sponsors are the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department, Computer Science and Engineering Department, and our departmental maroon sponsors are Aerospace Engineering Mechanics, Civil, Environmental, and Geo-Engineering, Mechanical Engineering, and the Centers for Sustainable Nanotechnology, and the Center for Sustainable Polymers. And finally, a very special thanks to 3M for their support of our event this evening. This event, and specifically our student recognition, would not be possible without all of these sponsors' support. We are very excited to announce that each of our undergraduate and graduate student award winners is receiving a $3,000 scholarship. Thank you again to our sponsors for their support. At this time, we'd like to welcome the Dean of the College of Science and Engineering and Professor of Mechanical Engineering, Andrew Aline, to the stage to introduce our keynote speaker.
So 3 years, that's amazing. I remember when it was just getting started. It's awesome to see where this event has come. So good evening, good afternoon. For those of you who may be coming in from far away, good morning maybe on some time zone. I'm Andrew Aline. I'm the Dean of the College of Science and Engineering. And it's really my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for the evening. This is Dr. Mohammed Salam, who's the President and Chief Executive Officer of an awesome organization that I'm sure you'll hear more about, called Wallen Education Partners. For nearly 20 years, Mohammed has been committed to building the capacity of nonprofits, universities, and international non-governmental organizations. Throughout his time with these, he has used the principles of equity-focused organizational leadership and professional development to ensure organizations more effectively and meaningfully meet the needs of their students, partners, and stakeholders. Dr. Salam joined Wallen Education Partners in 2022, and over lunch when we first met, we were exchanging startup stories. So he started around about the same time I started as dean in his current position. His entire career has focused on supporting first-generation students, students of color, and students from low-income backgrounds as they pursue college and career success. As a true champion for students, he has held leadership positions at the Higher Education Consortium for Urban Affairs and at Augsburg University. He holds advanced degrees, including a PhD in Organizational Leadership, Policy, and Development from right here at the University of Minnesota. Originally from Egypt, he's lived and traveled extensively through the Middle East and North Africa. Now, Mohammed spent most of his childhood in Minnesota and currently enjoys spending time with his partner, Amina, and his teenage children, Salma and Mohammed, who is going to be a gopher coming in the fall. Yes, congratulations. And playing soccer and basketball. He is currently very interested in the Minnesota Timberwolves as an avid fan, and so he's watching what happens with bated breath. With that, I'd like you to help me welcome to the stage Mohammed Salam.
All right. Hello. Good afternoon. Good evening. Thank you, Andrew. So that was thank you for sharing my bio, my introduction. You know, of all the things that are in my bio, today, especially after last night's game, I think the little note about the Timberwolves is maybe the thing I'm most proud about. So I'd love to spend my time today talking and breaking down yesterday's game. I probably shouldn't do that, but maybe you can ask me to come back next year around this time, and I can do that. Thank you again for this wonderful invitation. This is a real treat for me. I represent Wallen Education Partners. We do a lot of great work with the University of Minnesota. As you learned a little bit about me, my work as an educator, my work as an educational leader has brought me into great partnerships with institutions like the University of Minnesota. I feel very proud to be part of an organization that whose history and its origin story is really born out of some incredible gifts and support of students right here at the University of Minnesota. And so I have a few things I'd like to share, some ideas, some stories, some reflections, and I'm just really thankful and appreciative of the opportunity to spend some time with you today. At the core of our work as educators and as leaders, and I say this as a social scientist, I know here I'm trying to bridge a little bit the worlds that I occupy primarily of social science and the physical sciences, and I think I'll do a pretty good job. You can be the judge. By the end of my time, you can be the judge. But ultimately, I think my work and the work that I've really appreciated being able to do and feel very privileged to do, it starts and ends with our ability to support students through scholarship, through advising support, through advocacy, through mentorship, and through networking. So I would say that the thread of my conversation today with you, the opportunity to build meaningful partnerships for students, that's really at the center of most of my time. That occupies a lot of my time. That's what brought me in relationship with Andrew and brought me into relationship with many of your colleagues here in the College of Science and Engineering. And I'm excited for what the future can hold for our young people, because when you get people together, when you get educators together, when you get institutions together, when you get nonprofits together, you get industry together to talk about students in ways that are student-centered and student-focused, on mentorship, on advising, on networking, on advocacy, we can get a lot done. We can move the work forward in ways that I think in the past we've often fallen short. So I'll tell you a little bit more about Wallen. I'll tell you a little bit more about kind of my work. But as a bridge, I'd like to just say, Wallen, again, I said this at the outset, the University of Minnesota plays a huge role in the history of my organization. There are about 1,400 students that we support in our baccalaureate degree programs with scholarships. Of those 1,400 students, about a fourth of them are right here at the University of Minnesota. And of that fourth, about a fourth of them are right here in the College of Science and Engineering. So this partnership goes way back. It's a deep and meaningful partnership. I understand that there might even be a Wallen Scholar in the house today who's one of your students or is here, maybe soon to be graduate. So I'm really excited. Everywhere I turn, I find Wallen Scholars, and certainly here at the University of Minnesota, it happens quite often. So I'm going to take a little step back and talk, and I'm going to try to help kind of weave this little web of how, as a social scientist, and I'm going to be a little dramatic, and then I'll be less dramatic, and it'll be fun, I hope. And I also know I'm going to make a few jokes. They won't land. And my kids who are here, they'll tell me about it later. Maybe they'll tell me with their face now, but they'll definitely tell me about it later. Just disclaimer. I owe a lot to the physical sciences. I owe a lot. Maybe I owe everything to the physical sciences. That's the dramatic part. But I don't think I owe everything to the physical sciences the way that we all do, in the sense that without a kind of a modern understanding or a historical understanding of engineering and physics, our world wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. That, I think, sort of goes without saying. The physical sciences have shaped my life, my personal life, my relationships with other people, some of the decisions and choices I've made in this world, and it's all about the people in my life who have been practitioners and scholars and theoreticians in the physical sciences. I'm a kid of a physicist. My father was a physicist. He came to the United States from Egypt. I'm going to tell you more about Dad in a moment here. But he was a physicist. He became a computer science faculty member here in Minnesota, at Minnesota State Mankato for many, many years. But he was trained in physics and math and received his PhD in nuclear physics. And I'll tell you where in just a moment. My sister is a computer scientist, so she was the first, so followed in Dad's footsteps in a way. She's a systems engineer, and in a lot of ways, I think, excelled. For an Egyptian-American family, this is a great choice to make, to pursue engineering, one that, as the last kid, was okay for me to pursue something else by that point. Kind of wore my family down. But she was brilliant. She's a computer scientist. My brother was an artist, and then the pendulum started to swing. He became an architect. So in some ways, sort of saved himself a whole lot of, I would say, heartache with the family early on. But he's in an adjacent field. He pursued kind of an adjacent field. He learned to, in Arabic, architecture tends to go with engineering. They sort of go together. And of course, he learned to be an engineer of sorts. I thought I was through. I thought I was done. Great. The previous generation, we had physicists and engineers and scientists. Brilliant. That's great. That's plenty. But no. Little did I know that about 20 years ago, and who would have thought that two physicists who came to this country from the Middle East would make great matchmakers. And I was introduced to my wife, Amina, who's here, also a social scientist. I was introduced to Amina by my dad and her dad, who is a physicist. And so the strangest thing, if you can imagine, if you ever met my dad or you met her dad today, you'd wonder still, like, how did these two, how did they succeed in making the sort of like making the match in a way that has been as successful as it is, and next year will be 20 years. So I met the love of my life, my favorite person in the whole wide world, my partner in crime, my partner in parenting, because of physics, because of someone else's love for physics. It's strange when I think about it, as a social scientist, it's strange. And then as you heard, from Andrew, I'm really, really excited, and here again, I thought 20 years of living in the shadow of the physical sciences. My son, around this time last year, says, hey, I think I want to study computer science. I want to study data science. So he's going to be here next year, and we're really, really excited for him, and it's a wonderful thing. So I want to go back to telling you about my dad. So now you know my whole family story. You know that maybe there's a sitcom, How I Met Your Mother Through Physics or something like that, that might be interesting. Somebody can write it better than I can, certainly. But I want to tell you a little bit about my dad. And there's a reason why I bring him up, not just because he's a physicist and because he came to this place from another place, or because he came here as a fourth language learner. He was on his fourth language when he came to the United States. I'm going to tell you about him for all of those reasons, but I'm also going to tell you about him as a person, as a leader, as a teacher, and as a parent. So my father came to this country from Egypt. Before I was born. They had a nice little family of 4 before they came here, and they came and I sort of spoiled the fun. But he came here after completing advanced training in nuclear physics. He was a scholarship student. He was sent to the former Soviet Union at a time when sort of the height of the Cold War in more generally, Egypt was a non-aligned country. So in the late 60s and early 70s, the Egyptian national government was sending its best and brightest to the United States and also to the Soviet Union. And when they came back, it was just all kinds of fun. My father was an exceptional student, but he was also a student who was, I think like a lot of us, was fortunate to be born at a time of incredible transition. See, had he been from a previous generation, the fact that his father only completed the 2nd grade and his mother couldn't read and write probably would have meant that he wouldn't have been able to access higher education in Egypt, let alone abroad. But a big moment happened, a big socialist revolution happened in Egypt, and education was nationalized, and exceptional students, my dad was a bookworm. Exceptional students received a lot of support. He finished his bachelor's degree and his master's degree in math and physics in Egypt, and he was sent to the Soviet Union to receive his PhD. He went back to Egypt to fulfill the rest of his mission, and about a decade later, he decided to come to the United States. And I give you that backstory to illustrate that by no means, my dad was brilliant. He is brilliant. He's by no means a perfect guy. He's kind of goofy, sometimes a little bit awkward, just like a lot of us, right? But there's something that was exceptional about the journey he made to come to this country and kind of start over after building a career somewhere else, and to start over at a time of incredible transition and upheaval in his own country. And I give you that backstory because about 8 or 9 years ago, I was down visiting my folks and helping them out, and I stumbled across a plaque with his name on it and the name of the university on it. And this plaque said, "For exceptional service and commitment to his students, we honor Hamid Salem with the Camel Award." And I read this, and I was incensed, I was confused, I was overwhelmed, I was disappointed. And I asked my dad, I said, well, first of all, this was given to you in the late 1990s. Why do you still have this? This is offensive. These were your colleagues. These were your partners in crime, right? These are the folks you went to work with every day, who you taught students, you advised students. Didn't you find this offensive? Didn't it frustrate you? Didn't it hurt your feelings? And he said, it did. My dad was really pragmatic. He said, look, I was up for tenure and promotion, and there was a part of me that said, I'm just gonna deal with it. I didn't make a fuss. I didn't make a stink about it. I shared it with some of my friends. I shared it with some other family, but I didn't make a big deal about it. And I said, okay, well, if that was the choice you made at the time, why do you still have it? And he said, because it's a reminder. And I thought, okay, well, what was it a reminder of? He said, it's a reminder that there are times when our recognition is given to us because of our identities, or our recognition our work is recognized, I should say, and it's recognized in the most narrow terms. Right? That despite all the great work I had done before I came to the United States, despite the fact that I had basically spun the globe a couple of times, that my life transitions happened during some of the most critically important geopolitical transitions that part of the world and really this part of the world had experienced at the time, that despite all of that and despite achieving all of the things that I had and coming to the United States and starting over and raising a family, that my colleagues, despite all of their great work and their principal teaching, that they could only recognize me in narrow terms because their view of my experience was through a narrow lens. And I thought, okay, but why do you keep this with you as a reminder? This is offensive again. And he said, because for me, this is a reminder of the choices that I made at certain times in my life, and a reminder that I always knew that I was enough. And this was a reminder that perhaps others didn't, but I always did. And I needed that reminder in my experience to be able to move forward. I said, well, that's a really interesting perspective. Kind of tell me more. And he said, I grew up at the doorstep, essentially, of one of the oldest universities on the planet, Al-Azhar University in Cairo, Egypt. It's almost 1,000 years, maybe it's a little over 1,000 years old. He said, my dad completed the 2nd grade, my mother never learned to read and write, and at no point in my experience did I ever not see myself in my future. I never thought to myself that I couldn't be a physicist because I came from a part of the world that at some point, even if my generation didn't get to experience it, even if a poor kid from an urban center in Cairo at that time couldn't experience it, I didn't need people to look like me to tell me that I could do it because I saw it in my history, I saw it in my cultural context, I saw it in my experience. And so I didn't need my colleagues at Minnesota State Mankato in 1992 to tell me what I already knew. So you need to know that no matter what anybody tells you, you always have a place. And effectively, and maybe if you've seen the movies, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, my dad is a little bit like that, the dad or the grandpa there, where he says, Egyptians, we invented that, right? Come from a place that's really, really old, you want to tell me that I don't belong? I have a historical argument for you, and it's predicated on, we've been here all along. We've been here this whole time. And I share this story to illustrate that there are choices that folks in our predecessors, those who preceded us in this great work, there are choices that they make, and there are reasons why they make those choices. I came up in a generation that for a really long time was kind of angry with the choices that my family made around these kinds of issues, around creating space for others to do this great work. And as I've grown, obviously, and as I've had these conversations with family and friends, you start to understand that having a choice to react, to act, to respond, to engage in a way that's most meaningful is a big part of the work that we now get to do. I feel good that by and large, nobody's handing out an award to me called the Camel Award for Exceptional Teaching and Leadership. Might have a different reaction than my dad did. But I think it's fair to say that each and every one of us here who's encountered the violence that can be caused by discrimination and bias in our experiences, that we probably have a version of that in our own experiences. A time when your recognition came, but it came in the most narrow way, and it came in a way that you weren't seen or experienced as your full self. And that's what happened to my dad. And what I learned from those experiences is that we get to make choices along the way, and sometimes those choices make us happy, sometimes those choices make us upset, sometimes those choices are choices that change over time. We start to evolve our responses and our thinking. And as I think about the work moving forward, and kind of this is the tie back into the work that I get to do now, is I'm not a physical scientist. I'm a social scientist. At the center of my work is impacting systems, building programs, developing partnerships so that people like my dad can experience the kind of recognition, so they get to make their own choices about the places and the people that they get to engage and they get to impact. And it's pretty remarkable, and I say this with a great deal of now satisfaction and enthusiasm, that one of the most poignant lessons I've learned from, or about the kind of the human condition and human behavior came from a physical scientist. It came from someone who experienced human behavior not through the prism of his industry or his teaching practice or his expertise. He encountered this just like the rest of us do, through encounters with other people. And until we're able to create a system to develop programs that challenge our antiquated understanding or our narrow understanding of how we can live and experience our work, whatever industry that is, as our full whole selves, that there's still a lot of work left to be done. So I leave you with a commitment that I make as President and CEO of Wallen Education Partners, and as an educator, and as a kid of immigrants, that the partnerships that we establish with places like the colleges and universities like the University of Minnesota, and colleges like the College of Science and Engineering, and with industries like the many industries who've sponsored, and corporate partners who've sponsored this event today, who we also do a lot of work with here at Wallen. This is a call. We need to be committed to our scholars. We need to be committed to their mentorship. We need to be committed to their networking. We need to be committed to their advocacy so we can create opportunities for our scholars, so there are just maybe one fewer of those Camel Awards given out every year. So thank you for your time today. Appreciate the opportunity to spend these few moments with you, sharing my perspectives and a few family stories. And I look forward to coming back and celebrating, maybe in the back of the room next year at the 4th Annual Showcase. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mohammed. Wonderful. And just thank you for sharing so much about your family and sharing your family with us today, too. Absolutely. We are now going to enter the awards portion of our event. The CSE Excellence in Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Awards were chosen by a committee based on nominations made by peers, staff, and faculty. This was a difficult selection process, as all of the students, faculty, and staff nominated are all doing great work across campus to engage in and support the work of making the university and the College of Science and Engineering a more diverse, inclusive, and equitable institution and community. Today, we will recognize undergraduate students, graduate students, a student group, a postdoctoral researcher, staff, and faculty award winners. As names are announced, we ask that they come up to the front to receive a small token of appreciation. We'll have you come up on this side, you'll grab your award, you'll go across behind here, and then we'll have your photo taken on this side. To present our first 3 award categories, we welcome Eric Mundal, Interim Lead of the Diversity and Inclusivity Alliance, to the stage.
All right, our first award honors a postdoctoral researcher leading in DEI. The Mechanical Engineering Department was looking for ways for the department to improve and be an inclusive environment for its postdocs. This year's recipient of the Postdoc Achievement Award stepped up and organized events, including workshops, community building between mechanical engineering faculty and postdocs, and networking environments within the department and with biomedical engineering. Through her efforts, the Department of Mechanical Engineering developed a training environment where their postdocs experience a diverse, equitable, and inclusive climate. Our winner of the Postdoc Achievement Award is Ozira Justina. Next, we recognize the DEI accomplishments of faculty in CSE. This professor has been instrumental in advocating for marginalized individuals within CSE, conducting workshops on key issues like intersectionality, bullying, and implicit bias. Additionally, in their efforts to promote STEM education among students from diverse backgrounds, They actively contribute to the Energy and You program, engaging thousands of elementary school children in science outreach annually. The first faculty recipient we would like to recognize is Lee Penn. We would now like to recognize a faculty member that initiated the Association for LGBTQIA+ in Math and the University of Minnesota, fostering recognition and community for gender and sexual minority mathematicians. His research focuses on DEI through machine learning, which aims to create fairer, more equitable models that don't perpetuate harmful biases in search results. This faculty recipient is Urkao Bao. Our next recipients, numerous DEI efforts have ranged from receiving grants to provide graduate fellowships to increase diversity in computer science, to serving on the national board of the Computing Research Association for widening participation, to being a supporter of the NSF Grant for US program, a national program from NSF that provides competitive 3-year fellowships to students who left academia with a bachelor's or master's degree and want to return for a PhD in computer science. She further proves her commitment to DEI by having the most diverse group of PhD students in her department. We'd like to recognize Maria Ginny. This team envisioned, developed, and supports the Mechanical Engineering Ambassadors Program, which creates and delivers hands-on STEM activities to K-6 grade students at local schools, identified by the fraction of students on free or reduced lunch. The aim of the Mechanical Engineering Ambassador Program is to foster love and confidence in engineering, before the age students typically determine if they will pursue STEM, with the goal to increase diversity in mechanical engineering. Finally, we would like to recognize this faculty team made up of professors Al Axon, Nicole Morris, and Natasha Wright. Our final employee rewards recognize the DEI accomplishments of staff in CSE. This staff member has been key to the momentum of CSE Diversity and Inclusivity Alliance lead team, as well as 2 of its action teams. Beyond that, in fall 2023, she organized new member recruitment during orientation and shepherded Alliance co-sponsorship of He for SWE's event. And in spring 2024, she helped create the Psychological Safety Zero Prep book clubs and helped the DEI Leadership Showcase raise scholarships. The first staff recipient I would like to recognize is Lindsay Fisher. We would like to honor a staff member who has gone above and beyond serving as the Director of Education, Outreach, and Diversity for the Center for Sustainable Nanotechnology. In the Chemistry D&I Committee, she helped develop the new strategic plan in fall 2023. She provides mentorship, support, and advice around DEI work and STEM. And that is the kind of work that truly leads to a more inclusive climate in the CSE, one person and one action at a time. This staff recipient is Miriam Kraus. Our next recipient has amplified her impact as student engagement and DEI coordinator in a multiple of ways. She has supported presidential emerging scholars, mentorship programming, outreach to underrepresented groups, planning for CSE Week, overseeing STEM diversity, living, learning, community, and being key to new programming for first-generation college students, for CSE Pride Week, and for Black History Month. We would like to recognize Caleb Brose. Our last recipient leads communication for the CSE Diversity and Inclusivity Alliance, creating newsletters and web content to spread diversity, equity, and inclusion news throughout CSE. She helped initiate the Inclusion Summit and maintains the momentum of Cool Ideas programming. And she now also assists CSE Project Inclusion 2. Finally, we would like to recognize Ellen Puffy.
Our next award recognizes a CSE student organization and CSE student organization active in DEI initiatives. The recipient of the Student Organization Award has a large presence in the College of Science and Engineering at the university overall and is dedicated to empowerment, inclusivity, and representation. With over 370 students attending one or more of their, on average, 4 events per week in the fall semester, this group was focused on fostering an inclusive experience through mentorship programs, allyship education and events, and data-driven feedback. This year, the group is celebrating its 50th anniversary, and in the words of their nominator, has, quote, helped pave the way for a brighter and more inclusive future in science and engineering. The winner of the Student Organization Award is the Society of Women Engineers.
All right. Our next awards honor graduate students' contributions to diversity, equity, and inclusion. The first recipient of the Graduate Student Award has a passion for connecting students with underrepresented communities, with role models and mentors that share identities. He organized the first CSE Distinguished Scientist Seminar hosted by the Department of Chemistry. Alex also hosted a BIPOC roundtable for students to connect with peers, as well as an event to help students learn about primarily undergraduate institutions, as well as helping provide information on how to apply for faculty positions. His nominators highlighted his passion and readiness to jump in. The first Graduate Student Award recipient is Alexander Manzor.
The nominator of our next recipient of the Graduate Student Award says that, quote, she is continually breaking down barriers, creating opportunities, and advocating for BIPOC and other underrepresented groups. Last year, she co-founded the National Organization for the Professional Advancement of Black Chemists and Chemical Engineers here on campus. Starting a chapter is no easy feat, but Beza has helped NOBAC. He hosts events, recruit, and what was that? Nobuche, my apologies. Nobuche hosts events, recruit, and inspire others. She has used her experiences and challenges that she has overcome to help create an inclusive, welcoming, and supportive space for the chemistry and STEM communities. The second winner of the Graduate Student Award is Beza Tuga.
The third recipient of the Graduate Student Award serves on the Mechanical Engineering Graduate Council in 2 co-chair positions, co-chair for Coffee Hour and DEI co-chair. In these positions, she has championed the creation of the ME DEI newsletter, as well as bringing food and refreshments from local BIPOC and women-owned businesses for the community-building ME Coffee Hours. She's been instrumental in enhancing educational opportunities and connection building. In her work in the Wright Lab, she has worked to embed DEI into her research process and is working with the department and grad council to bring her unique ideas to tie research and DEI together to other labs. The next recipient of the Graduate Student Award is Jen Hoodie.
The final recipient of the Graduate Student Award serves as a graduate student co-chair for the DEI Working Group in the Department of Chemical Engineering and Material Science, and founding leader of the Students Organizing Against Racism in summer 2020. She took on the challenge of understanding and utilizing the large collection of data from years of departmental climate surveys, drawing from experiences in scientific communication and work in advocacy. From reading written feedback and conducting data analysis to creating meaningful and impactful infographics, she led a team that gave a voice to the valuable feedback and presented to current and upcoming departmental leadership on the current climate and important action items. The final winner of the Graduate Student Award is Grace Kresge.
Our final category honors undergraduate students active in DEI within the college. As demonstrated by her work as a TA and her involvement in the International Buddy Program, our first undergraduate student winner is actively involved in work on campus that fosters inclusive, supportive, and encouraging spaces. In particular, her role as a TA, she consistently advocates for women in STEM and creates a safe learning space for students to feel comfortable asking for help. One of her nominators said it best, quote, "Her engagement in outreach and awareness activities showcases her leadership, dedication, and commitment to creating a diverse and equitable future for the STEM community." Our first undergraduate student award recipient is Ni Dong.
The next undergraduate student to be recognized has been involved in a variety of student groups and organizations on and off campus, including the Muslim Student Organization, the PSEO Student Association, the Al-Shifa Clinic, and through on-campus research opportunities. Throughout these experiences, they have done tremendous work for not only our immediate campus, Twin Cities communities, but also for communities around the world by managing humanitarian relief causes like the earthquake in Syria and Turkey, and supporting students during Ramadan iftars by collecting funds. Our next undergraduate student award recipient is Abdullah Shakan.
Our next honoree is nominated for their work supporting students identifying as part of the LGBTQ+ community. They are involved in many spaces on campus, but their role as president of OSTEM, or Out in STEM, was one that stood out to the review committee. They were heavily involved in the overall planning and success of CSE's Pride Week, and their nominators shared that they, quote, "always brought an inclusive and thoughtful voice to the process, doing an earnest job to represent the best interest of the LGBTQIA2S+ student population." Please congratulate Lauren Hagan, an undergraduate student award recipient.
as the Director of DEI for SWE, the next award winner has helped host a variety of events on campus, including but not limited to Black History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, and Pacific Islander Month. All 6 of her nominators, 6, yes, commented on the incredible impact of these events and made note of how dedicated she is to work and making sure everyone feels included and valued. We are thrilled to recognize Lena Mbambe.
As noted by her nominator, our final award winner is a force. She is actively making the Chemical Engineering and Material Science Department and the world a better place. Throughout her time at the U, she has shared her insight as a woman of color in the Chemical Engineering and Material Science Department by giving feedback on areas that aren't working for the department, while at the same time highlighting what is working. She was also heavily involved in the development and inclusive teaching surveys and held conversations with both staff and faculty to address concerns raised by students. Our final undergraduate student award recipient is Juma Waganda.
And with that concludes our event today. Congratulations again to all of our award winners and finalists. We thank you all for attending and for your continued work and effort contributing to diversity, equity, and inclusion within CSE and the university. Thank you again to our sponsors for their support of this event, 3M, our students, and our efforts on campus. I also want to share a thank you to the absolutely force of a committee that put on this event. Many of them are here today, and so I just want to say thank you all. This would not happen without the amazing planning committee that took on this project, so thank you so much. As you can see, we have a QR code, so please complete an event feedback form via our QR code before you leave. Just some last housekeeping things. If you had trouble with parking vouchers, please find us at the back table. We will get you a parking voucher. And for our award recipients today, please meet us at the back for some final photos all together. Thank you all so much to all of our attendees, the recipients, and everyone here today. We are so thankful for your time, and we're really thankful for the amazing work that's being done. Thank you so much.